What's up guys, it's Hank, and I'm going to be bringing you another Adobe After Effects tutorial today. Hopefully I should be selling my Mac pretty soon, so if I do that, then I'll be able to get the camera I want, and I'll be able to do a lot more tutorials on more than just Call of Duty type things, and I may end up making an entirely different channel for that. Anyways, today what we're going to be looking at is quick and easy ways to rotoscope. And if you don't know what rotoscoping is, actually, you know what, let's Bing it. We're going to Bing this real quick. Rotoscope. There we go. So yeah, as you can see, I did this tutorial before, and it keeps fucking me in the ass. Anyways, rotoscoping is an animation technique in which animators trace over footage frame by frame for the use of live action and animated films. So it's basically just masking something out frame by frame. And typically, a lot of people would just, they would use the pen tool and click around. Here, let's go ahead and drag our clip in. Let's go ahead and get set up real quick. It's going to take a second to load this, because not only am I recording, but it's kind of a large clip because it's slow and it's 1080 and all that shit. Alright, so let's start right here. We'll go back a little. We'll start right here, and let's just trim this up, just the area we want to rotoscope. Alright, so traditionally people would use the pen tool, and they would just come up here and they'd zoom in real close, turn this up, and they just, they duplicate this first of all, and they'd go around and get close and mask everything out, do, which is generally the way people do it, and I typically do it that way too. But sometimes that just takes too fucking long. And if you were to do that and go every single frame on this entire clip, that would take literally forever. So that's not what we want to do. We want to do this quicker, easier, less hassle, and we don't want to have to go every single frame. So how are we going to do that? That sounds insane, right? No. What we're going to do is we're going to double click on this, and it's going to bring up this here window. It looks exactly the same, but it's not. And we're going to come over here in this top little toolbar, come all the way over, not this last one, but right before you see the Roto Brush tool. And if you click that, and you come over here, you see you get this tiny little green dot. Let's go ahead and zoom in. And you see this green dot has a plus sign in the middle of it, so let's go ahead and make this a little bigger. And what we're going to do with this is, if you're familiar with Photoshop, this is essentially the quick mask tool. And what you can do with this is you can paint over the areas that you want to rotoscope out. And the cool thing about this is that you don't actually have to come in here and get precise and try and fill in the whole thing, get in all the gaps, and you don't have to do it like that. It'll work like that, but that's not how you have to do it. Really, all you need to do is you can just click right here, just get a really shitty rough line around the whole thing, and it figures out the rest for you. And as you can see, this is a pretty good mask. It's got some trouble areas, but we're going to go and we're going to fix that. For right now, we're going to come over here in the settings and take the smooth, and we're going to bring smooth all the way down to 0. And that's going to get it just hugged up right next to the pixels it's selecting. And we're going to zoom back out. We're going to come over here to our brushes and make our brush a little bit smaller. And if you hold the Alt button down, you can see the plus changes to a minus. What that's going to do is tell the plugin, say, no, don't want that. I don't want that in there. And it's going to be like, okay, bro, we're not going to put that in there. And so now you can just go back and forth and keep adjusting, selecting tiny areas, unselecting other tiny areas to get it as perfect as you need it to get. And for this tutorial, I'm not going to get ridiculously picky, partially because this clip itself, what I'm going to do with it in the final thing, because I am actually going to be doing this in an edit. What I'm going to be doing with it doesn't require it to be perfectly perfect. But anyways, alright, so now that we got this frame rotoscoped out, we don't have to go frame by frame. It's going to keep guessing for us. So we go a little bit further forward, and it's going to take a while to load because this is a pretty heavy. This plugin takes a lot of like RAM and CPU usage, so I recommend doing this on half or maybe even third. So let's bump it down to third. And it takes a lot of RAM and CPU usage, so it is going to render slowly in RAM preview really slowly. So what I recommend is after you put all the effects you want on it, to go ahead and render that clip out and then re-import that clip to use. But I'm not going to be doing that right now, at least not today, just because that would take too long for this tutorial. So what we're going to do is we're just going to keep going back and keep highlighting the areas we want and basically redefining the areas that we are going to mask out. And we're basically just helping the program, I guess, figure out where the object itself is. And the more frames we do this to, the better it's going to guess all the frames in between. And you just keep doing this until the entire clip is perfectly rotoscoped out. And as you can see, it does a pretty good job of guessing. It does get some errors. Oops, I didn't mean to do that. I actually need to be doing it like that. It does a spectacular job, actually. And if this is on high, it of course would be a lot smarter with it. But I got this on third just so it'll render a little faster for this tutorial, because recording and trying to do this is kind of fucking my computer. And typically it wouldn't, but this actually, the Roto Brush tool actually is a little heavier than it seems like it should be. So like I said, you're definitely going to want to render everything out once you got the effects that you want on there. There we go. Okay, so now we come back here, and if we hide this bottom layer, we can see that this is perfectly masked out. And let's put that on full so we can see it a little better. Okay, and as we can see, it is kind of sloppy, but that's just because it's not creating a round line. It's actually going and getting the jagged edges, which is where the pixels are, which is actually kind of a good thing because it helps blend things a little better. And when you're in this view, you can kind of see the areas that it's hitting that it shouldn't be hitting. So you can come back and fix that if you didn't see it in this screen. And when you jump back, it'll be gone. Alright, so now we're going to come over here and we're going to play with some of these settings. If you click Refine Matte, you get this Reduce Chatter option, and Use Motion Blur will become ticked on. You want to unclick that. And Reduce Chatter, what that's going to do is basically, it's almost going to feather it, but it's going to essentially select a little bit further outside various areas with high contrast, and it's going to keep those at lower opacities. Like if you see, if I turn it all the way up, we get this little squiggly thing and these dots back, and if we turn it down, then those will go away. So we're going to keep that off for now, but that will sometimes help a lot. What we're going to focus on right now is what the rest of these do. Smooth is literally going to take your mask and it's going to say, okay, well, you see this jagged, 90-degree angle? Let's round this out and make it a circle. So you can see it doing it right there. I typically don't really recommend doing anything past like 2, or else you get this just shitty weird blob. So I'm just going to keep it at 1 for now because I think that looks good. And then we can come over here to the feather, and if you put it at 100% feather, that's about a 10 pixel feather, maybe 15, probably less than that. And I'm going to keep that at 50, and then I'm going to bring the choke, which is actually reducing or expanding the mask itself. I'm going to bump that up just to bring it in a little bit and get rid of some of these edges. So that looks pretty good right about there. And if we click this back on, it looks like nothing's changed. But we can start adding effects to this. So if we go to curves, let's get rid of this brushes thing. Never going to use it again. And if we put curves on this bottom one, we can bump it down. We can bring the reds up, blues down, and the gun itself is unaffected. And it's going to be like this, throughout the whole thing, without you having to go in and actually frame by frame manually readjust the mask. Because when you're doing with the pen tool, when you're working with the pen tool, when other elements come in, like with this hand coming in and off a frame, it's going to kind of get tricky at some points, and the way the gun kind of reshapes itself when it's scoping in and scoping back out can get kind of tricky with the pen tool. And you really got to know how the pen tool works, or else you will end up going frame by frame by frame, and it's going to be a total pain in the ass. And this is just a lot more simple than that, and it really makes everything a lot easier. However, this isn't going to work with every clip. The reason it works so well with this one is because there is a lot of contrast between the color of the gun and the color of the background. If you get in areas where the color of the gun is almost identical to the background, it's going to be a lot harder for the plugin to realize what you're trying to mask out. If your background is static and you're trying to mask out just a moving object in a static background, it is going to be a lot easier for it to tell. But even then, with the colors being the same as the background, it is going to get a little confusing for the program. I think I just smacked my mic, and I was cracking my knuckles into the mic. I'm sorry. Anyways, but this works really well, especially with high quality. This is in 1080. It works really well with 1080p clips, where it's different than your background. If you had like graffiti camo on or something, it might be a little more difficult, but it is definitely doable. So yeah, and that's basically it. You can come in here and you can throw on any effect to this bottom one, and it's not going to affect the top one. You can throw on get some crazy depth of field going. You can even start throwing things on this top one if you just want it to be on the top one. Say I want depth of field on this. Do it like that, and if you do that, it's going to blur it too much and give you this weird, shitty little edge, but yeah, it's whatever. But I hope you guys enjoyed. This went for 16 minutes long, which is actually longer than it was last time, but I'm not going to redo this again. Leave a comment, tell me what you thought, give me ideas for other tutorials. Hope you guys enjoyed. I'm Hink, and I will see you guys next time.